we've got Scott Depace as well, and that makes me very excited because Scott, I've been bugging you for a while to do this. I've been telling people, "Oh my goodness, we're going to get Scott here," and there you are.
Yeah, I just thought, "What's in it for me?" sort of thing, right? Why do I need to do this? So, but here I am.
There's a handsome check involved. I'm sure that Doug will tell you about the, and then of course the exciting part of being me promoting your businesses. Let's hear about them. What are you guys up to? So Scott, what are you doing these days? I know people love to know what the guys from the Howard TV crew are up to. So what are you up to?
So right now I've got a drone company where I go on golf courses and shoot the whole course, and it's a business called golfersflyby.com. That and starting to look for work as I'm recently out of work in November. I guess my last job ended.
And how can, if people are interested, do we contact you in any way, or is it?
Go on the website, golfersflyby.com. And if you're a GM of a golf course and you want people to see what your golf course looks like, give me a ring.
Now, how's the golf caddy going?
Golf caddy is all sold out. We've been sold out for about 10 years now. And, hey, it worked. I sold all that we bought from China. And we realized that phones were taking the place of video cameras, and no one needed a, 5-pound clamp to hold a camera on anymore. So we got out.
Wait, so Jason Kaplan was correct? You're going to say that here on this podcast?
No, not at all. He is never correct. At the time, I offered a solution for someone who had a video camera to take it to the golf course. And then once cameras got small enough, you didn't need this monstrosity anymore. I saw that, and we just sold our last one, and that was it.
Well, congratulations. It's good to be sold out.
Yeah, exactly.
And Doug, we talked back in August, and you were working on some things, and I don't know if you have anything you want to add here or promote some business that you may be working on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a whole bunch of different things. I'm working independently, started my own company, and then I just signed a contract with a startup based out of San Francisco in the tech space that I don't want to announce the company yet, but that's really exciting. Just signed something on Monday. And then I'm doing my own thing, which includes 3D virtual tours with video and e-commerce integration and ads, commercials, explainer videos, testimonials, product launches mostly for small businesses. It's been going well.
That's awesome. And as you see the open to this show, Mr. Goodstein actually created that for this podcast here.
Nice.
Oh, is it the new one I made you last night? That's a little bit stepped up from the other one. That was.
I can add.
Like the old one.
We'll add whatever. This is a freedom of speech podcast.
Yeah, I gave you a good one last night.
Speaking of freedom of speech, Scott, I know you wanted to kind of go and maybe do a play-by-play of last night's speech by the president, and I know you had some thoughts on the things you heard.
As much as I could watch, I just had to laugh when he said that we all can have a 4th of July party as long as we play our cards right. Screw you. I'll have a party today. You're invited. Come on up.
Okay, and tiny and outside and basically what you were doing last March. It hasn't changed.
People want that level of mommy and daddy in their life. I just don't need it from the government.
This is why I'm so glad you did this, because of all the guys, I was really interested in you because you didn't care. You always came in with your opinions. You didn't care what people had to say. Tell me a little bit about that time walking into that studio and not really giving a shit about throwing out your opinions, even though 9/10 of the people in that room didn't want to hear it and thought you were nuts.
Yeah. Look, Howard was always great in that. He let us sort of just say what we wanted, and there were no ramifications on that. So in that way, you felt very at ease and able to, say what you wanted. The ganging up was always ridiculous because I knew I was right on everything I was saying. But yet these peons would just jump in, and Jason would start typing notes to Howard, tell him this, tell him that. And it's frustrating at the end of the day, but at the same point, I I guess I enjoyed it because I would do the things to get me on the air to say it. So I would say something to Gary knowing he's going to run to Howard and say it, and then I would be able to argue my point. And then also there were times like Al Franken and Michael Moore, and being able to debate those guys was fun.
I think you in life you won the Al Franken debate. If we look back,
I think I win all the debates.
So a lot of the guys, I would say, didn't want to be in there, but you liked being in. You liked being called in. You liked, especially if you had a point to make, right? Some people didn't want to be in there
because I don't particularly feel comfortable on air, but at the same point, as long as I'm arguing my point, I can sort of get over that. So when there were a few times Howard was like, all right, Scott, we want you to come in for this segment. And I was like, oh man, I really don't want to do it, But when it was spontaneous and just going in to yell my point, that was fine. I felt comfortable with that.
Do you really have like a hatred of Jason, or is that more of a working relationship?
Hatred is a very strong word. I just find the guy very annoying, and I don't see myself being friends with a person like that in real life. And what he did at the show literally was, just trying to egg people, trying to throw them under the bus or anyone's work. If there were a guy there who was like that, you would all hate him and you would take him out back and beat him up, But so in that way, he was very annoying. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with politics, but I have so many liberal friends. It doesn't bother me, but he's just one who really that little cackle and the smile he puts when he makes his point. You just want to punch him,
The kid in the back of the room. Oh, that was Scott. Scott threw that at you, teacher.
Yeah, exactly. He would totally tell, in school. Yeah.
Doug, how long have you guys known each other? And tell us maybe how you and Scott, we talked about this last time, but Scott Einzinger basically put you guys together, right? That's how you got, it was at E, right?
Yeah, Scott and I started working together in August 1994.
I think it was July.
I came on first week in August, so you were there 2 weeks before me. Yeah. But yeah, it goes back. So do the math. What is that, 27 years ago? Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It was, a small crew. It was, about 4 or 5 techs and 2 or 3 producers, Ganji included.
Yeah, it was me, Ganji, Radzinski, and Einziger. Pretty much, that was it.
So Scott, you directed the first E show that...
No, what had happened was I did camera work for the first maybe 2 months, and our director got sick. No, actually, our director wanted to leave and go back to LA. He told another guy to do it, who was our engineer. He started doing it, wasn't very good. He got sick. They said, well, Scott, why don't you do it? So I did a great job. And then when he came back, they said, we want Scott to keep doing it.
Was it a great job, Doug? Did you feel that way that he was, or did he just tell, or he was just very good at telling people that he was doing a great job?
No, Scott is a very good director that I'm glad he acknowledged it, because he's really good. And I've seen a lot of directors work with a lot of directors, and he's right up there with the best of them. He really is. To work that spontaneously and put out a quality product when you go into post-production and have minimal edits and fixes to the line cut, besides like sprucing it up with graphics and B-roll. Scott was really good, really good. Yeah. In fact, the first director was a real big wig director, and he didn't get it. That's part of the reason. I don't know if he left or just wasn't feeling it, or if LA was an excuse, but he just didn't get it. He was producing line cuts that were pretty bad. And he's directing a major syndicated show right now. He's still in the business, but he just didn't get that spontaneous.
I think it was more he didn't jive with Howard, though the two of them didn't see eye to eye. So,
well, and as Doug was saying, now I think through our conversations over email, Scott, that I'm a big TV guy. I used to work in the business. And I'm always interested just in the behind the scenes stuff and watching that show. First of all, it's 5 hours long, so you can't really take a break. You take breaks, obviously when he takes those long commercials. But you've got 6 people talking sometimes, and when it got bigger, you know, you get the serious. Now you've got Artie chair, you got a Fred camera, a Benji camera. That's a lot to keep track of, especially with these what I would call demanding hours. I mean, a baseball game is 3 hours. You sit down, you do your 3 hours, and it could go extra innings. But this thing, and then you never know what's going to happen. Tell me a little bit about just the fun of it, because it is basically live to tape television.
That was the hardest part. Is, you know, I sort of would know when to tone it down a little bit, sit on a shot of Howard, and not kill myself. But then all of a sudden, 3 minutes into that, it would become the segment, and then I felt like, well, I had missed some stuff behind during the last 3 minutes. So thankfully we had some ISO reels to edit with. But yeah, figuring out when to turn it on, because I couldn't do 5 hours. I did that for the first 10 years. And then finally I was like, oh man. So I would, you know, start slowing down a little bit. But yeah, it was fun. As the show grew, I kept adding cameras, adding pieces of equipment, adding graphics, adding lighting elements. By the time, if you look at the show from K-Rock until we got to Sirius there, and you'll see just like the production value had changed a lot from monitors in the background to get some movement to moving lights and robotic. We had a tracking camera that would fly around the ceiling, and you know, so I always was trying to push the show technically forward, although Howard wanted to sort of just see it minimal, you know, but it was fun.
Tell me about, go ahead, Doug.
By the time the show ended, I'm saying that there was the bells and whistles and all the technology was just emerging. It was just on the cusp. So we were making do with a lot of stuff, and Scott really figured out how to maximize a lot of software and hardware that wasn't, he just sort of finagled stuff, I guess is the word, and made a lot of stuff work really well.
Engineers used to come in that place and they would look and they would see how we had equipment wired sort of through other pieces of equipment just so that we can get by with a limited budget. So we did, we had to, and I think we did it. I'm pretty proud of what we put out there.
I think the most famous stuff that would happen, though, is Howard's angle. And you've seen this change over years. You've even seen it change at his house. Like, he's literally made it different when it started from his house. Tell me those things. Was it hard to deal? Because I feel like he wants the microphone to cover up his whole face.
I could go on for days about this subject.
Well, go ahead.
I'd say the first time I heard anything about a good angle was during this film. So we had just, we were moving from 600 Madison to 40 West 57th Street. The radio guy had designed a studio and said, here's the furniture. How do you want it laid out? And I sort of put where I thought everything would go. But the problem was, at the same time, he was doing private parts. So we come in to do a test shoot. Howard comes in and he looks and he goes, I hate it. I go, you hate it? I've been working for 6 months. And what do you mean? What do you hate? He goes, your camera's in the wrong spot. They need to be back here. You just can't flip everything like that. So we literally took a month to figure it out, what to do. We took a piece of furniture. Radio guy wasn't happy, engineer, because he had now had to rewire everything. We moved it to the other side, and now people couldn't get around that way. And so if you look, the first couple shows, maybe where Bush is in, the guest console's on the left, Howard's right. And then after that, we moved it over to the other side. Then Howard decided he had an exact angle that he wanted. It wasn't even just shoot the right side of his face. It was a 3/4 shot. So now I had to park 2 cameras on him instead of just having one like the old studio. You know, so now I'm a camera down on other stuff. And then we're adding people like Benji or Artie, and I'm trying to, so we're having to add more cameras. And, you know, it just became challenging. But then the worst part happened was he looked at a certain show. He thought he looked like crap. So I said, all right, let me look. And I looked at it and I thought maybe the shadow was a little too much under. So I adjusted his lighting. He came back next year and he said, "You've moved my cameras." And I said, "Howard, I can't move the camera. It's literally bolted to the ceiling. I swear, I would not move that camera." He goes, "You move the camera." So now I go for another 2 weeks of trying to move the cameras, trying to move the lighting, trying to make him happy. He's still not happy. So Scott Einziger at the time, he decides he's figured it out. And he wants to put his light literally like on top of his head so that his shadow goes over his Adam's apple and blocks that. And I was like, oh my God, it looks horrible, but go ahead. We did it. Howard again hates it. So what I have to do is I've got to call another director up, another lighting guy, bring them in, put the cameras back to where I knew they had to be and where the lighting needed to be. The guys got there, showed up, and he had me park the video on a shot of Howard where he looked horrible before. And then he compared it to what he looked like from that day's show. And Howard said, "I love it. You fixed it. Great." Walked out, everyone's happy, and I'm sitting there going, that was ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. But that's what it took. We had to sell Howard that now he was all improved.
I always watched it and I thought, he's really just trying to cover his face with the microphone because it not your fault. It was a terrible shot. Some of these shots.
That became the issue in the newest studio. He literally wanted to block himself all the time. And I just found it to be, I couldn't do anything about it. I hated it. I was, he wanted the shot really wide too. And so it was wide, a mic blocking. He had all this stuff in front of him here. And I just threw up my hands and we just did it. We gave him what he wanted. But it's not how I would have done it.
Now, you're looking at Howard every day for 20 years. Do you notice the nose getting a little smaller, the chin, maybe the hair? Is there anything with the hair? Tell us. I honestly, if I had to bet and I had to get it right or I'd be dead, I would say yes. He's had hair and or nose. Well, in fact, he said he had a
nose he talked about.
But at the time, I had no idea, and I'm not good at that. I didn't notice.
Doug, I always found it funny, and I think the more I talked to all this group, I realized that you guys had your Howard TV. There was a news department who did their thing, and then there was this radio division. So it felt like there was 3 divisions. Is that, the more I watch these old shows, I mean, it's always, Scott fighting with Depace or Greg Carmel fighting with Lisa G, which was hilarious because Greg didn't say shit. Tell me a little bit about just having your, the radio show's the radio show, but then everybody has their own little piece.
Yeah, it was like a mini conglomerate of, with all verticals that all obviously were with the Stern Show. So yeah, the TV was really acted independently. And after we established ourselves at each platform or each company, it was pretty autonomous. When needed, when we needed to go and run stuff by Howard, we would, of course, and work very well with the radio team to make sure, it was always radio first, but we also wanted to complement and supplement and enhance the visuals, which we did well. And then so if you had the radio team, they were completely, obviously under the same roof, but really also autonomous. And then the radio show. So yeah, it was 3 divisions. And
it seemed like everyone fed off each other. So TV might do something and radio would come and cover it. Then it made it onto the radio show. And then TV would start doing an interview for that. It became this big mess.
Yeah. And then the other vertical added was the, what was it? The wrap-up show.
Yeah.
That became its own entity too. And then when you started adding these other shows, that became fodder and started controversy and content there. So it was all these different verticals that all related to the big seat in the studio for Howard to bring it all together.
Yeah.
Scott, I mean, this was a fun job though, right? Every day you go in and you get to watch this radio show. I listened to it for many years, not as much now, but it had to, was it fun or was it work? Because you're really doing your job. Like when I've been at baseball games that I produced or been around them, and you don't really get to enjoy the game. Did you enjoy the show or was it just work?
There were times when you really enjoy it, and there were other times when you thought it was awful, and wanted to look for something else. But the majority of time, and as I look back, it was a lot of fun. I mean, there were times when I was laughing so hard I couldn't, I was crying, just watching stuff. Like I always tell John, Stuttering John, when he drank the orange juice and there were maggots in there. I mean, I lost it. And then a lot of the Artie stuff, and there were great friendships, and it was a great 20 years.
So I asked Doug about this. I ask everybody who comes on, would you have been a lifer? Do you think you'd still be working there if not hearing the news while directing the show that you're not going to be working there anymore? And I want to ask about that, but would you still be there, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the type of guy that goes, leaves places. I find my spot and I just keep going. So yeah, I think as long as that show were still happening, I would have been there.
Yeah, and so there was these changes. We've seen this big summit meeting on YouTube. We've heard about it. Howard wants a A-list guest, and he's got this PowerPoint that he's put up in his crazy office. What was it like just for you as there was these changes? We all have heard of MARCI coming through. I don't know if she dealt with you guys as much, but what was it like for you?
Honestly, it felt like the beginning of the end. It felt odd. It felt everything that the show was great for was being changed. And we all were sort of looking at each other, rolling our eyes, going, what the hell is happening?
Doug, was that across the board? News department feels it. The TV department feels it. The wrap-up show.
Listen, I won't name names, but everyone was just in disbelief and shaking their head after that summit. And when certain people came on board, it was just, what the heck? It was bizarre. It was
the part about the summit that I liked was that Howard was pushing for more guests. And there was a real attitude towards guests before that. Gary would never look for guests, and Howard would not want him to do that. And he used to always shock me. I'm like, hey, this guy's in town. Why aren't we getting them on? But Howard just had this different take. If they want to come on, they know where to find us. And so I enjoyed that part of that summit where Howard was saying, hey, we're going to go out and get the guests for once and have a actual booker for the show. But it was the rest of the stuff that was odd.
Yeah, what were those last days like as you're watching Howard say, yeah, I have an idea. We're going to get rid of Howard TV, but I have an idea. What was it like? Because it happened on the air. He didn't tell anybody, as usual.
Yeah, I mean, we all were shocked. First thing I did is I turned around and looked at Doug, and Doug sort of seemed dumbfounded too. I mean, so we had heard, I had been through probably 5 or 6 contract negotiations, whether it be radio or TV along the way. So I was just assumed that, this is just going to be another one of those negotiations. But when he said it was going away, I still didn't believe it. I sort of was like, he's really negotiating, But then as we heard more, and then Howard took us, had a little brief meeting with us after the show, that it seemed real. And I was like, oh, this doesn't sound good. But I still hoped that someone would come in. I thought, he's doing the radio show. Why wouldn't he want the free money to do the television show? We didn't ask for anything of him. He literally just had to do the show, and we would handle the television part. So I really thought it would come back, and it didn't. And I've heard various reasons for that, but who knows?
So I'll let either of you answer this because it's probably difficult, but it now is being done the exact same way you guys did it. You set the template, and Sirius puts out clips, and it's basically done through Sirius. Why? I mean, my question would honestly be, why didn't they just ask you guys back? Or did you think there was something there that they didn't want this group back? They want to do their own?
No, that's a good question. It did take 3+ years for them to get back and do it. I think there was just like one intern or someone just pressing buttons, and it was like that for a while. The only way I saw it is, and I don't know how else to see it, is the clips on Twitter. And I would call Scott and be like, I can't even watch more than 10 seconds of this. It's just, they're destroying it. It's definitely gotten a lot better since with the clips I've seen. They've definitely put some meat into it and good production quality. But at the beginning, I mean, it took years before they had, I think what Scott was saying, we just thought there would be, just like we went from E to In Demand, there'd be a seamless transition, and that transition didn't happen. And it took years for anyone to come and pick it up. And that's, I don't know if you could say no one picked it up and Sirius took it over, or I don't know what happened there, but that's what happened.
They had our phone numbers. They knew how to get in touch with us. I'm curious to this day why they didn't, whether it be, I've thought of everything. Was I too political? What did Howard, was he not into the arguing anymore? Did MARCI think we were bad for the culture there? So did we get paid too much? I don't know. It could have been any reason, but they never called. They called for one thing, to help. I'll tell you a story. After we had just left, Gary asked Doug and I to help with the birthday show that was coming up. Howard's big, 60th birthday party, I think. So we had been through those. Doug always ran the whole, practically the guts of the behind the scenes of the show. So he and I went in, took a meeting in the city, and I told him, here's where you're going to want Howard. Here's where you're going to want the stage, blah, blah, blah. I told him a bunch of stuff. Doug then went and put all the finances together and said, all right, this is what it's going to take. Then I hear from a camera guy who I know, who talked to my wife and said, Scott asked me to do the birthday show, but I've just been hired by another director. I was like, what? So we call up Gary, and Gary was like, oh, how'd you find out? Like, not, sorry, I should have told you guys. I mean, we had taken these meetings and we budgeted the whole thing and we had worked on it. And it just felt like we're already down because we're looking for work now. And then he just kicked us in the nuts,
Yeah, that's a story that, I moved on. I didn't really look back, but that was the hardest pill to swallow. That was just classless and disgusting. Let's not sugarcoat it. That was pathetic and really just unforgivable. And why it was done, I don't know, but I know that didn't just sting. That hurt, and it hurt Scott. It hurt everyone on the TV team. People were just in disbelief. And then to make it even worse, not one person from the TV crew was even invited to the actual party after that classless act. And then on top of that, there were empty seats that they were handing out free tickets on the street to strangers the night of the event. So
yeah, we were told there were no seats left.
That what?
We were told there were no seats left. That's why we couldn't go.
Yeah, and I was told directly from someone why we weren't invited, and it was someone's decision who came on board late and late in the game. I don't know what the vendetta was, or what kind of mindset, or what kind of insanity was going on, where you rationalize and justify not inviting a loyal set of troopers after you just took the gig away from them without even telling. Listen, this is the stuff that people know about. I'm not shedding light. I'm maybe shedding a little more light on it, but these stories are out. You've heard these. That's the truth. Okay. That owed everyone an apology, but of course not, because that's not the way it works over there.
How do you? Baba Booey's been there forever. He's very loyal to Howard. Do you just chalk it up to that, or do you go, come on, be a human being?
I don't think Gary had anything to do with it.
I'm just saying anything that happens with Gary and just he's been shit on for so many years, but has a huge house, has beautiful stools in his basement. Is that just what it kind of is? Is that he's just a loyal soldier and he's going to retire happy and wealthy?
He's not going to ruffle any feathers. He's got a great gig. Listen, he's ridden the wave for this long, and he's probably close to retirement age. So I get after the next contract, he's probably done. I don't think Gary
was going to go to bat for me anytime soon after the whole sleeping video. that Doug really was responsible for. But I took the heat.
I just watched that again I do research here, and the research is watching old clips on YouTube, and that is hilarious. I mean, just some of the stuff that goes on. Now, do you guys watch YouTube and look at some of these old things, or is it, I did it, I don't care, I'm not that big a fan, I'm pissed off, or whatever?
I mean, you know, a lot of people, I'll be on the golf course, and a lot of people ask me Stern stories, and I always come up with the same 4 or 5 stories, and I'm like, so every once in a while, I'll look for something and watch something, and it reminds me. But no, I don't really do a lot of Howard Stern YouTube watching. Doug? Because, you know, ultimately I feel like that's partly why the show went away. You know, YouTube killed our job.
YouTube was a big problem. We couldn't keep up with the piracy. And for every show we would get taken down by the legal team, 10 of them would go up, to the point where we'd see a direct correlation with subscriptions starting to go down as the content on YouTube went up. And it was in the infancy of piracy, basically, with people putting so much stuff up on YouTube and stealing. They just couldn't control it.
I could see that, but it's like Napster. I love it. It gives me an outlet here. People steal this show.
So tell me, what did you watch? What did you watch that you enjoyed?
Just of this, I saw you and, Jason, your good Jason stuff, of course. There's the Al Franken arguments there, of course. The Gary saga, there's like 8 hours of that with you, the camera. Because you're right, then it went into the wrap-up show, and then what he says on the wrap-up show then becomes fodder the next day on the show, so it's funny. Tell me, so these times where Artie, I love Artie, I miss Artie, I ask everybody about Artie, but Scott, tell me about these times when you're watching him fall asleep, or you're watching him fight Teddy or Sal, and I mean, did you have sense that there was issues with him, or did you feel weird about showing this, or was it, hey, it's a big party, Artie's laughing at it, it's fun?
I literally had no idea he was doing drugs until after he would say it each time. Then I'd be like, oh, but then the next time I would give him the benefit of the doubt. And again, he must just be tired because he was up all night long. Like, I don't know. But, you know, there became a time when the eyes start rolling into the back of his head sort of stuff. And the eyes, you know, the lids are like half open. And, you know, I had a camera on him. I felt like I had to do my job and capture it, but I felt guilty for it. And the extent that it was funny and he played along, like putting the bed out there so he could take a nap during the interview. Who was being interviewed when he's sleeping there? She's talking about her, like,
was it Avril Lavigne, or
she's talking about an award she won or something, and here's Artie just snoring on the bed. It was so funny. But so the extent we can make fun of it, it was great, but ultimately it was sad. And Artie was a good friend, and generally the funniest person that worked in that whole 20 years of the show. And I just hope he figures it out, you know.
You don't keep in touch with him, right?
He changes his phone number all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll call him once a year maybe when I find a new phone number, and we'll talk for a little while, and then he disappears again. So,
Doug, I was listening again, doing research, but I forgot about this. You met O.J. Simpson on the golf course and asked him to come on the show. I didn't prep you for this story, but again, as I'm doing research, and I'm like, I remember him telling that story. Do you want to relay that here, or do you remember?
I don't think I met OJ on the golf course.
Was it not? Okay, evidently.
No, that's not Doug. That was the guy in L.A. The guy.
Gary Garver.
There was a guy in Vegas who
Gary Garver
had a fight with.
Oh, Gary Garver?
Yeah, that was Gary Garver.
Yeah, your research sucks, Brad.
Well, I will send you the link of you telling the story, Doug, that I talked to OJ.
I met him at a bar in Tampa when I was down with some friends randomly, and the guy I was with ended up knowing him, and OJ came over and gave him a big hug. It was the most awkward thing ever. It was bizarre. And then he sits down with us, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in a club or a bar or whatever it was with OJ Simpson. It was really bizarre.
The juice. You see OJ. I think that's that whole time, the early 90s. I was going to ask, Scott, do you have a favorite? I always ask the Jackie era or the Artie era? Do you have, or then the third era, whatever that, the MARCI era, whatever we call it. But
they are two different eras. Jackie was more like there's a party in the studio, and Artie was more like, an SNL funny classic Dan Aykroyd bit. It was just two totally different experiences. I would probably vote for the Artie era, but Jackie was damn close second. When Billy West was there and just the howling and the laughing and here's a weird dynamic. Jackie he would write jokes and then put them into a bin that we had a camera up, and then Howard would read it, right? So whenever Howard said something anti-Fred, the first thing Fred would do is he would look over and look in the bin and see if Jackie wrote it. And then he would attack Jackie. He wouldn't come back at Howard. He'd be like, well, Jackie's a drunk. It was great.
Are we listening to the show now? Do we care? Do we even, or is it too bitter?
I'll listen to some of the interviews. That's about all that that reminds me of the Stern Show I worked on. Let's put it that way. The interviews are great. The rest of the stuff, not for me.
Doug?
Maybe I'm older. I don't know.
I listen. I just check out the clips on Twitter, and that's it.
It's evolved. It's very evolved, that show.
Evolved to what?
I would say it devolved into Howard and Robin having a long conversation that's very, very... I'm bored, and boring is what I would call it. But I don't, it just changed, but that's the way it goes. Guys, I have a 40-minute Zoom plan here, and I think I got all of the stuff I wanted in 40 minutes. I know we could go longer, but Scott has some things to do. Doug, I know you're very busy. You guys are busy, but catching up with you, Scott, was great. I hope maybe we'll do this again. Yeah, this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Doug, we'll keep in touch, I'm sure, because we're always working together on little things.
We'll do it again. Just watch some more YouTube videos and come up with some great bits that we want to talk about.
I will do that. No, and again, I'll send you go. It's you guys entertained me for so many years, so I really do. I appreciate you guys doing this. I know a lot of people love hearing from you guys. So